Let's look at something called the knowing-doing gap and how to plug it. Two Stanford GSB professors, Jeffrey Pfeffer and Robert Sutton, examined why there is so much stuff out there spreading sound knowledge and advice. We're talking not about fake news, but the real stuff. But there is so little change in what people do. They called this the knowing-doing gap. We may know the theory of good nutrition, exercise, time management, leadership, or whatever. But in reality, we often don't apply it to the current situation. So on the one hand, I have me knowing what I'm supposed to be doing. And on the other side, I have me, well, not doing it. The gap in between is the knowing-doing gap. Let's unpack 4 reasons for this gap. The first reason is that it's always much easier to talk about something than it is to actually do it. We confuse the activity, talking, dreaming, planning with doing. It creates the illusion of action. And the danger is that if it seems too hard, we can actually talk ourselves right out of it. Most of us are very good with excuses to keep talking and thereby postpone positive action. No, it's not a good time. I'm planning to get started next week, etc., etc. What's your favorite excuse? The second reason is that often we are scared to try. Here are 3 reasons why. Firstly, we may be a perfectionist. We're scared to try because, well, the result may not be perfect, and we can't live with that. So we get stuck in the perfectionist zone instead of moving to the good enough zone. Second reason is that we may be stuck in the tyranny of the comfort zone because, well, it's really comfortable to stay put. And thirdly, have you heard of achievement phobia? Apparently it's a real thing, the fear of success. Basically, we may sabotage ourselves because we fear the changes that success will bring to our lives. The third reason for the knowing-doing gap is about history and habit. Holding on to old ways of doing things is way more comfortable than making changes. Why is this? We have a strong emotional connection to old ways. For example, my grandparents or parents did it that way, so I follow their ways and values, and I do this too. Sometimes we're addicted to familiarity and certainty. For example, I don't like the feeling of being out of my depth, so I stay in the shallow end. And finally, sometimes we believe that we are our habits. For example, we find it hard to separate our habits from our static vision of ourselves. The fourth reason relates to the fear of making mistakes. We may fear the judgment of others. If I make a mistake, what will they think of me? Also, if I get it wrong, I may feel inadequate about myself, so I'd rather do nothing to protect my fragile ego. There might also be the possibility of a negative consequence, which I'm uncomfortable to face, so I'd rather not take the risk. Now let's see what we can do to minimize these 4 reasons in order to plug that gap. Our first reason was that it's easier to talk about something than it is to actually do it. What if we replace the statement with another one? Less blah blah and more action. Pick something you've been procrastinating on. What thing could you do right now to stop talking and start doing? It all starts with one move in the right direction. Let's look at the next reason, being scared to try. This is a deep issue. You'll need to do some reflection about why this fear exists. Are you generally fearful in life? Or is it a specific thing you fear? The more you unpack this and get insights, the more you can start challenging your existing mindset. So let's put up a strong affirmative statement. If it scares you, it may be a good thing to try. Healthy fear is a signal that you're moving out of your comfort zone. Let's unpack the next reason for the existence of the knowing-doing gap, namely our attachment to familiarity. I think we can all acknowledge the truth behind the statement, old ways won't open new doors. It stands to reason that if you want to get different results, you'd have to start doing things differently. Confront yourself with a statement whenever you feel yourself clinging to old unproductive ways. Let's plug our final reason, being scared to make mistakes. Similar to being scared to try, we need to get some insight into why we're so fearful of making mistakes. Try this activity. Choose a situation where you're scared to act because you're fearful of making a mistake. Step A. List what could possibly go wrong. Step B. Allocate high, medium, low probability to each of these reasons. Step C. Choose your high probability reasons and think, what can you do to minimize the risks? If you don't have any high probability risks, then what are you waiting for? Does the task seem easy to start now that you've addressed the downside instead of avoiding it? How do you feel about the statement, better an oops than a what if? People who take calculated risks, some of which may end up as mistakes, get much closer to their dreams and aspirations than those who get stuck at what if. So here we have 4 strong statements aimed at overturning mindsets that limit us. The main aim is to take that knowing doing gap and shrink it right down so that we can get ahead and achieve what we want to. The smaller the gap, the greater the likelihood of success. Plug that gap. Keep following us to find out more.